is the first of our virtual business fora as part of the Citi Business Festival here at Citi TV. Okay, so I've made it simple for myself. Two of you in here, two join us virtually. There are 4 themes running through my mind. I'm allocating the themes simply. So there's definitely a leadership issue. There's definitely a compliance issue. There's obviously a business continuity issue. And there's also a strategy issue. So by the powers vested in me, you are my leadership person. You are my business continuity person. 2 other guests joining us via Zoom. Dr. Abdallah Ali Nachia will join us. He is a veritable tax expert. I think it's fine to make him our compliance guy. And yesterday on the radio version of this program, I had a good friend of mine, Michael Koto, who is the lead partner of Confidence. He spoke on the new window before the old norm comes back. We'll allocate to him the strategy segment. Those of you listening, you can take any title for yourself. When it gets to your turn, I'll come to you. So let me just start with brief thoughts. So Taka, tell us a bit more about what you do, because we've heard you on the radio before, but this is the first time I'm having you on TV. So who is Taka Awori and what do you bring to the table?
Okay, so Taka Awori is, I'm going to call myself a new Ghanaian, because you can see we were just talking about how I've been in Ghana now for 17 years. But I'm the CEO of Busara Africa. And I'll just say my passion is leadership. And what I've realized is that leadership is changing today. Leadership is no longer the same. So that's what I hope to share with your viewers today.
Brilliant. Michael, you are the COO of APSA, but I'm sure there's more to that than the title. Tell us a bit more.
Most definitely, Bernard. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the business. I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of the business. That is to say, it goes from how we serve our customers, how we ensure that branches are up and running, how we ensure that we have the right technology in place, how we ensure that our customers are the center point of what we do. And in addition to that, one of my key responsibilities is business continuity planning. And as you said, I'm going to take listeners through what they need to do when it comes to business continuity planning.
Brilliant. So for you, this is the best time for you, because we talk business continuity when there's a disruption. So I'm sure your office and your desk, you have no sleep because everybody's wondering, what happened to our January plan? You are in Q2, we have no clue what's going on. You must be having a lot of difficulty.
Yes, Bernard, but what is important, as the name goes, is you having the necessary plans in place. So just taking a step back, one of the things that organizations don't do well is investing in business continuity planning. If you invest in it and you have accountability for it and you ensure that you test those plans, then when there's any disruption, you can call on those plans and the disruption is actually limited. So I'll share more information on it as we go along. But it's and one other area which is also very important when it comes to business continuity planning is how you anticipate. Anticipation is critical. Why? Because you can't plan for everything. There's a saying which goes that planning is impossible, but planning is essential. And because you can't plan for everything, it's important as leaders that we are able to anticipate what is the emerging threat, what can go wrong, and then you fine-tune your plans to ensure that when that threat actually happens, you're ready to embrace it. So at Absa Bank Ghana, when COVID-19 hit us, we were ready. And we're able to serve our customers, and we're able to ensure that we had all the necessary safety protocols in place to make sure that we serve our customers.
Now, I think that's interesting, and I want you to elaborate a bit, because I recall your brand switch was around February, and then by mid-March, everything closed. We were all excited in February. You did a big launch. Manifest was there. We were rejoicing. Little did we know that in less than a month, no church, no school, no business. I mean, what sort of thinking did you put in place to ensure that you're still smiling here, you're still comfortable, the bank is still running, you're still doing business, you're still sponsoring events, although it's been 3 months of nothing happening anywhere else? How did you do that?
So Bernard, I think in terms of the date, our launch date, if I say that we knew that the first confirmed case will come in March, that's beyond me. Nobody actually knew. But we had heard about what was happening in China. And we have heard that the potential or the possibility of it coming to other countries And we decided that getting it out of the way as soon as possible was something that could actually be in our benefit. And most importantly as well, you want to start the year and get the launch done. And then you have the rest of the year to ensure that you embed the new brand, the new ABSA, rather than leaving it for too late. So that informed part of our decision to launch it at the beginning of the year and then leave the rest of the year to ensure that all the other interventions that we need to put in place to ensure that this brand gets embedded is done. So that's what we did, and that's how we've been able to ensure that we've kept the business running safely and we continue to do business and be able to serve our customers in the right way.
Brilliant. So what I take from that is a plan is not a static document. It has flexibilities and give room. So no matter what happens, you will not break into pieces. You can still continue. I'll come back to you on business continuity. But Taka, I was following an article a colleague journalist on CNN wrote, and she said COVID is 4 things: health, economics, social, and leadership. That's what she wrote. She said COVID is health. We know why it's health. COVID is economics. That's why everybody's fighting to open. COVID is social. That's why I'm wearing the mask. But she also said COVID is leadership. Now, I didn't know what to make of that, but I think you can explain that to me.
Yes, yes, indeed. I think we've all realized during this period of COVID that leadership matters. We've seen in the type of countries that have thrived, that have responded effectively, it's been because of the kind of leadership they've had within their governments. We've looked at companies that have been able to manage and recover and respond to COVID, and it's because it's the type of leadership. So I think what we're all seeing, and I think Grace this morning also mentioned that one of the key things that enables business, an organization to recover and reboot is leadership. But I think what's important to also emphasize is that it's not any type of leadership. It's no longer just the leadership of old. In fact, there are certain things that leaders used to do previously that you can be sure that will block them from rebooting their businesses. So leaders that center power around themselves will not be able to reboot their businesses. Leaders who are not trustworthy will not be able to reboot their businesses. Leaders who are stuck in certain ways of acting, behaving, thinking cannot reboot their businesses. So yes, leadership matters, but it's not any type of leadership. It's what I'll share later. It's really what I call agile leadership, adaptable leadership.
I like that. I was wondering why you and the journalist chose leadership and not management. Because the natural instinct of people when there is a crisis is to go back into their shell. We know management tries to look backwards, compliance, enforcement. Leadership looks forward, is visionary. Why is that distinction important in a time like this?
Because indeed, and maybe I'll take you through, because many people say, I think you have said that agile leadership, it's a buzzword, and I think the way to unbuzz it is to unpack it. By really explaining what does it look like, so that your audience, your viewers can start to think, okay, do I have the right type of leadership? And let me go through very quickly what are some of the key elements of agile leaders. So one thing all agile leaders do is they're purpose and value driven. And here comes answering your question, the distinction between leadership and management. What does it mean to be purpose and value driven? It means you have an unrelenting focus on your business why. During times of uncertainty, it's very easy to start to think, why are we in business? What are we trying to do? You pivot too fast, you pivot in all directions. But what keeps you centered is your North Star, your purpose. You're clear on this is the value we bring to our customers and our clients, but it's also your value driven. It's about ensuring that the decisions you're making, your culture, your operations are influenced by your values. And more importantly, as a leader, it's seeing that your decision making, and I'm sure, Michael, you've had to make many difficult decisions during this period, but it's ensuring that these difficult decisions are influenced and aligned to your values. So that's the first, purpose and value driven. The second is agile leaders are trustworthy. At this moment of still quite rapid change and uncertainty, people do not follow a leader they do not trust into an uncertain future. So what does it mean to be trustworthy during this period? The first thing is that you put employees and your customers first. And it's clear that you're doing that. I think you talked about that's one of the things you did at ABSA. So it means that it's not just about you as the leader or the senior management team, but it's clear you're thinking about your staff and you're thinking about your customers. Second is you keep promises and you're accountable. So you keep your promises. If you can't deliver, you come back to people and say, this is what has changed. And finally, you're candid as much as possible and transparent about future business strategies and plans. So that's what delivers and helps with the trustworthiness.
I like the way you've buzzed it. So agile leaders are purpose and value driven.
Yes.
And they are trustworthy.
Second is they're trustworthy.
Good. What else?
I'll move on quickly. The third is they're adaptable. And this is what Grace was talking about this morning in terms of being able to pivot. So as a leader, you need to be asking yourself, and it does indeed start with yourself. How am I able to manage change? How am I able to adapt to the new technologies that my company or my business needs to leverage right now? How flexible am I in my thinking? I've come across many leaders who are stuck in thinking in particular ways. Their mental models, their paradigms are so rooted that even though opportunities are emerging, they simply can't shift. And finally, your adaptability is also in your leadership style. I've seen leaders who have a particular strength, and that's all they know. So maybe their strength is they drive things. They're always at the head driving things. Whereas at certain moments, adaptability means, maybe this is the moment not to drive. Maybe this is the moment to take a step back, listen to my team so they feel part of the change. So that is the third element, being adaptable.
Amazing.
The fourth is that agile leaders are connected. They're connected to their customers, they're connected to their employees. And how do you do that? It's by consistent and regular communication with emotional sensitivity. I think we all recognize that change is a time where emotions are raw. People are afraid, they're anxious, and as a leader, you're constantly communicating in a way that you're able to show compassion. I think you mentioned this morning how a lot of people are not happy with the way Trump has been able to communicate or communicated yesterday. They feel like he didn't show the requisite compassion given the rage people were feeling. So constantly communicating and with the emotional sensitivity. It's also about being able to listen. It's not just you sending a message. It's also saying, am I listening to what my customers and clients need? Am I listening to my team that are on the front line, are really seeing the kinds of changes that are coming in so that when you make decisions, they're informed decisions because you're connected? And finally, being connected, and again, Grace mentioned it this morning, is are you connected enough to the changing needs and requirements of your customers and your other stakeholders, government, other regulatory bodies? So that's the fourth one, Bernard, being connected.
I love this. This is the Citi Business Festival. Our first virtual business forum is Reboot, and we have a quasi-virtual panel, 2 in here, 2 will join us via Zoom. I can already see Cyril, I can see Robert Mensah, Richardson, I can see Abiel Williams and a few other people who've joined us. We'll be coming to you guys on the Zoom for your questions. But let me also take Michael's introductory thoughts on the whole idea of business continuity planning and keeping your business alive in times like this. Just give me your opening thoughts, Michael.
Okay, so I'm going to break it down into 2. Right. I think in terms of business continuity and how you ensure that you have plans in place and then keeping your businesses alive, the 2 are a little bit different. So one is pre a disruption. And pre-disruption, it's important. And when I speak to it, I let people think, people believe that business continuity planning is something so complex. But it's just asking yourself the question, no matter the size of company, whether it's a large corporate or a small business, you have to ask yourself the question, what will happen to me or this company if this disruption happens? That's just the starting point, right? When you ask yourself that question and you take time to say, what if I can't work, if tomorrow, Bernard, this building is not available? what will happen to Citi TV? Does it mean that if today's program will not come on? That is the beginning. So once you know that your customers or your stakeholders are important to you, it's important that every business spends some time asking themselves that question. Once that question has been asked, then you say, I have to invest in it. I have to dedicate some resource to it. Then after that, you need to have the necessary time to be able to test these plans, like I said earlier. And then you have to, when you test those plans and you realize that maybe there are challenges to it, you are able to put interventions in place. Then let me turn to keeping your business alive. The first thing that every business must do is you need to stay close to your customers. Your customers are the reason why you have a business in the first place. So by staying close to your customers, you are able to identify what their needs are and what their challenges are. And that is the juicy part. Every business today, by understanding your needs and your challenges, then you have to be able to adapt your business. So first, stay close to your customers. Ensure that you know what has happened, show them that you care about them. Then once you know that the challenges and then the needs of the business and you have adapted to it, then you have to find the solutions. You have to solution your customers. Now, it may be that you are unable to provide every solution. And that's another advice I'll give to businesses. Look for a partner. You don't have to do everything yourself. The fact that it's better to have a percentage of a large cake than actually not have any cake at all. So partnership is key in these times to keep your business alive. Because, and during the crisis, I realized that lots of companies adapted to doing home deliveries. And then the question then that will be asked, does it mean that you need to have sort of invest in delivery, a business? No, you don't have to. You can actually partner with another third party and to be able to provide that service. And then the other thing that is also key is you need to manage your cash. I mean, it seems like a very basic thing, but if you're cash strapped, all your plans, all your ideas, or your ability to keep your business alive, it's next to impossible. So a few things there as well. You can actually speak to your bank. At Absa Bank, what we've done is we've given payment holidays, a moratorium to our customers to give them a bit of a breather. If revenues are going down and you're not able to generate the same revenue, give them a break. So speak to your bankers. It doesn't mean that you have to bank with Absa, but you're welcome to come and bank with us. But we have done that. Speak to your suppliers. Let them give you extended credit terms. That will actually give you a bit of a breather also in having to pay out immediately to your suppliers. Everyone across the world is impacted. So speak to your supplier. Engage them. They might be able to give you some kind of credit terms that will enable you to be able to keep your cash flow going. And then another key thing that businesses must adopt. COVID-19 has challenged us. It has actually made us think outside the box. It has made us see that things that previously we thought was important, we can do without. And therefore, we can become more efficient. And let me touch on some of the areas. For example, travel. Everyone thought that I need to travel to Kumasi, I need to travel to the north. But when you couldn't travel, you still had to operate your business. We adopted the technology tools. So as now you have viewers on Zoom, I don't think that you ever had a panel that were coming from Zoom.
Ever.
Now, what does that mean? It means that you can actually do things cheaper. Traveling also actually takes a lot of your time. Imagine there are people who travel from one location to the other, takes 2 hours to get to work, 2 hours back. What COVID-19 has taught us is, we never knew as Absa Bank that a number of us can work from home. And therefore, what it has taught us that if some people can be more effective working from home, adopt that. It will be cheaper for you. Then also I want to touch on another area that actually people don't use a lot. Technology can enable you to actually reduce the cost in your business. It can actually take out redundant costs. It can actually automate administrative activities that are repetitive and actually to make you more efficient. So in the area of managing your cash, there are a number of tools that you can use. I've mentioned travel is one. Even your premises that you occupy, you can reduce that. Because if you're working from home and you don't need to occupy the large space that you actually used to occupy before, you can actually reduce your cost there. Then you can actually also use technology as a means of streamlining your business, making it more efficient, and to have sufficient cash flow to keep your business alive.
I can see cash flow is very big for ABSA, because your colleague Anini Boa on the show this morning gave me a nice quote. She says, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king, cash is the boss. And I think you're saying the same thing there.
Exactly.
And I also see similarities between your point about staying close to customers with a connection point. It's actually similar things you're saying using different perspectives. You're talking about what will happen, and then you're asking, test the assumption, stay close to customer, be solution oriented, think of partnerships, of course, use technology to solve problems. Now, I will be checking if my virtual panelists are in, because I'm hoping to connect to the two of them pretty shortly. And also, I just want my guys on Zoom to give me a wave so we see them. Guys, how are you guys? I'm sure you have to be, your sound has to be open before you talk, but I like the wave. I can see Richardson, I can see Cyril, I can see a few names. Some of you have used your device names as your placeholders. It's not a good thing. Somebody's called Huawei Nova Street, somebody's called Galaxy 10. Don't do that. Put your real name there so we can see you for who you are. So if you have questions, start putting them together. If there are specific questions for the panel in here, or if they are just general comments, we're happy to hear from you. We have a few more minutes. Actually, we have an hour and a half to go. So, guys, there's a lot to be done on the program. Let me come back to Taka. Any thoughts as you listen to Michael? Did anything jump at you that you feel already confirms your leadership theory?
Yes, indeed. I was really happy to hear him say, as you said, the issue about staying connected to your customers, because I did mention that is a key aspect of about agile leadership.
Yes.
But also the thing that struck me is that agile leaders need to know how to develop organizational resilience.
Okay.
Again, buzzword you've been hearing, resilience, but really resilience is not just being able to bounce back, but it's to be able to bounce forward better.
Okay.
And some of the things you mentioned, Michael, really hit me in terms of that is indeed what organizational resilience is about. Number one, it's being about able to anticipate what is coming. And if I'm hearing you right, it's when you start to do the business continuity plans, that's a way of anticipating what's coming. Organizational resilience is also about being able to cope with change. And what I'm hearing you say, when you're managing your cash, when you're trying to reduce expenditure of non-essential things like travel, accommodation, that's about coping with change. One thing I didn't hear, which I think agile leaders do well in terms of organizational resilience, is enabling their businesses to learn from change.
Okay.
So as we go through COVID, it's really saying, so many of us are in the mode of, particularly if you're an SME, you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to get back into business. But it's finding that moment to pause and say, what are we learning from this process? What are we learning about the ways we do things, our operations, our culture that are strong, that make us adaptable? And what are things that we're learning about the way we do things that are not going to help us be resilient and deal with whatever change comes in the future? So that's the only little bit I would add that I think is key to agile leadership and developing organizational resilience.
And I don't know, for you, banks are very strong on compliance. They're very strong on proven systems. How do you, assuming you go back to tomorrow and say, guys, can we start doing agile, sexy, agile things? Whereas, you know, your bank has been in existence for many, many years. They have their proven systems. How well do you allow flexibility in the way you think about resilience? Is that something that's built into the system, or you're more into the solid track record of historical precedent? Michael?
So, Bernard, if you remain in the past, you will not be able to survive in today's world. Today's world is continuously changing, and there are even though you are regulated, right, and you need to comply to regulations or directives, what I always say to people is that it's not about changing or not complying to regulations. It's about the how. So we are still able to be flexible and agile to be able to meet our customers' needs, but do it in a responsible way to ensure that you are still compliant and at the same time you are able to deliver for the customer. And let me touch on this. Let me illustrate it with an example. At the start of the year, nobody knew that we will be struck by this pandemic, right? And as soon as there was the first confirmed case in Ghana, our regulator, the Bank of Ghana, came up with some directives as to how we ensure that we are serving our customers and our colleagues in a safe manner. How do we keep our colleagues safe? How do we ensure that customers are safe? So banks had to, as ours, or Absa Bank had to adapt to this change. So one, we needed to make sure that customers coming in are wearing nose masks. So imagine that previously, a way of identifying a customer is by looking at the person's face. But now, you have to find other flexible ways to say, this is Bernard. You show me your ID and you are wearing your nose mask. What do you do about it? So we found a way of doing it. There are other ways of identifying a customer. For example, their signature or other methods of doing it. Secondly, we had to ensure that there was social distancing in our branches. That's another thing we had to put in place. It wasn't something we used to do before, but we had to actually adapt to it. Then, of course, we had to be able to make sure that, you know, we do our deep cleaning and everything that it's required for us to make sure that we are operating in a safe environment. So we were able to be agile, to adjust. Within a period of maximum a week, we had totally changed the way we serve our customers. If you come into our branches today, the way we need to serve our customers a few months ago has totally transformed. And that shows a bank that is agile and able to adapt to situations to ensure that you still comply, at the same time make our customers happy. And we actually did a survey. We actually went out and asked our customers, what do you think about the interventions that we've put in place? And they were extremely happy with what we've done. They were happy that we were keeping them safe and at the same time being able to serve them in an efficient and effective way. Another example I can give as well is how you are able to use digital solutions to prevent customers from having to come to our branches. So as soon as we realized that the need to come to branches might actually increase their risk to a particular to customers, we immediately went out on a digital spree, encouraging our customers, if you don't need to come into the branch, there are various ways you can transact to us if you use all our various platforms. We have platforms for businesses and we have platforms for individual customers. Our ATMs as well are sophisticated enough. You can deposit cash in there, you can withdraw, you can actually request for statements. There's so much that you can do today without the need for going to branches. So Bernard, if I'm to answer your question, yes, you need to be compliant, but leaders today must be able to adapt and ensure that you adjust your organization to meet the ever-changing pressing needs of customers and at the same time remain compliant. So a certain type of leader is also important. If I'm to add to what Taka has been saying, you know, leaders today must be dynamic. You can't be a leader today and not be able to change and make a decision and realize maybe I've made a wrong decision and then change your mind and go in a different direction. Leaders today must lead by example. You can't ask the rest of your employees to do something. For example, the example I can give is, we've told every employee to wear a nose mask. So I will not come into our building without wearing a nose mask. Leaders today must take responsibility. And finally, as I've said before, leaders today must be able to anticipate. For me, the anticipation is a key trait for today's leader. If you are not able to anticipate, you will not be able to deal with today's ever-changing environment that we
So let me just present this. I was following a webinar where the main speaker was essentially saying that all the things COVID has taught us is that we shouldn't be finite-minded leaders. Where a finite-minded leader is looking at short-term, specific, measurable accomplishments. We had growth of X% last quarter. We had revenue of Y% last year. Now, what they're saying essentially is that things like business, career, and education are not finite games, they are infinite games. And the object of playing is not those little victories. The object of playing is to stay in the game. So you're measured not by how well you did last quarter, how well you did last month, or how much sales you made last year. You're measured by, if you're not even there, does the business still exist? So they're essentially saying it's a journey and not an event.
Yes.
I want your thoughts on that, because I feel in COVID times it may be important, because if you launch your new brand in February and most of the businesses you fund have not been able to do significant business in the past 3 months, how do you still find meaning that you are solving a problem when, if you look at your target for the past quarter, you haven't met it? You look at how much sales you wanted to make, you haven't met it. How does this idea of infinite thinking about business address parts of what we're saying, Taka?
Yeah. I think it's connected to the idea of being purpose-driven. Because I would actually say the idea is not to be always in business, just for the sake of being in business. The idea is to fulfill your purpose, to fulfill your North Star, and to realize that it is a journey, a long-term journey, but it's also how you're learning across the journey and how you're enjoying the journey as you're continuing on. But it has to be your purpose, your why, that really guides your thinking of long-term. And the thing about agile leadership is there will be moments where you have to make decisions about the short term while keeping in mind long-term implications. So I think agile leadership is about managing ambiguities, recognizing that it's really about and or, but it's really about its and with, and managing the in-between. It's also keeping in mind the idea of service, Bernard. It's really saying that many of us, and I think the way you talk about ABSA, you're there to serve your customers. I think when your purpose is framed as service to your customer, to your client, that is the type of rallying purpose vision that gets your team on board even during those tough moments. So they may say, okay, this month I know the salaries may not be coming, this month we may need to tighten our buttons, but we know that there's a higher purpose. Even though we're a business, there's a higher purpose to what we're doing. That's the long-term vision.
Interesting. Will that suffice if your director from headquarters says, Michael, March to May, you didn't really meet your target, but look, our customers are still happy. We're still in business, changing lives. Does COVID allow a recalibration of what is success in the line of business that you run?
I would say that, and it's something that we tell everyone, our objectives and our purpose should not change as a result of an event. So yes, you might have a temporary blip in your performance, but that is the reason why you also plan for a disruption, such that when that disruption happens and you're quickly able to get out of it, and you're able to assess where you are compared to where you thought you would be at that particular point in time, you then begin to innovate. So what we've done, so if I'm to answer your question directly, what my director from the regional office will be looking for is, yes, we understand the challenges, but what are you doing about it? As leaders, your role is not to talk about your problems, it's actually talk about how you will solve the problems. So if the leader comes in there, my director comes in there and I'm able to illustrate, yes, we are behind on revenue. Yes, we're behind on our cost projections have actually gone up because we've had to invest in health and safety equipment that we didn't budget for. The next point they'll be looking for is, what are you doing about it? And that's what we are doing today as we speak. It's not about changing your objectives. It's about making sure that you have solutions to address the disruptions that you have. So, and also, let me just say something, Bernard. What has happened as a result of the outbreak is that it has actually challenged our minds to say, how can we do things differently? And in so doing, there are also opportunities. So even though we have seen that COVID has brought some challenges to businesses, if you set your mind back and start thinking, what are some of the opportunities that still exist, has arisen as a result of COVID? There lies the juicy part to enable you close the gap that you have. So don't see COVID as just something terrible that has happened. And the one example that comes to mind is I've realized that people are beginning to patronize more and more made in Ghana products. So how do we solution local SMEs who are interested in developing our own products in Ghana, goods and services in Ghana? That is where we'll be focusing on, to make sure that we grow with those businesses. And that is the kind of thing people want to hear from you. Not just say, I'm actually having met my targets. No. It's about the solutions and actually also identifying first the opportunities and then actually coming up with solutions. And that is what people will want to hear from you.
Can I say something very briefly on that? And I love the point that Michael is making about how the context, the market has changed and there are opportunities, and what consumers and customers are looking for is changing, not just as a result of COVID. In addition to looking for made in Ghana goods, increasingly what I'm hearing is customers are looking for businesses that are environmentally friendly. They're looking for businesses that have fair and equitable practices. They're looking for businesses that are inclusive. They're looking for businesses that practice good corporate governance and ethics. So increasingly there is a demand for us to shift the way we do business and leverage those additional demands from clients to respond to the changing needs.
Fantastic. This is the Citi Business Festival, our first in a series of virtual business fora. We call this one Reboot. And irrespective of what COVID has done to you, there's a chance to start all over again. I have two guests in studio. Michael Mensah is the COO of Absa Bank Ghana, and Taka Awori is the lead consultant for her consultancy, Busara. CEO for Busara Africa. And she's the leadership person. So as we said, we're focusing on 4 areas essentially: leadership, business continuity. We also will be talking strategy and taking advantage of opportunity. And for that, Michael Koto will be joining us to bring us some thoughts on that, as would Alasan or Abdallah Ali Nachia, who is our compliance guy, is a tax expert really. How do you sort out those compliance issues? Because trust me, your statutories, your tax have a big role to play in your cash flow. Don't forget, cash is king. You can make all the money you have, but if you can't streamline your tax obligations in a legal yet optimal way, you could still be cash strapped even though you make a lot of money. And we'll bring Ali Nacha in there. I was wondering if any of my viewers on Zoom had an intervention to make. If you did, you can just give me a wave, and then I will see if I can put you on. Otherwise, okay. All right, so we'll come back to you guys shortly. Just put your questions together. Let me see if I have Michael Koto on. Hello, Michael, are you on?
Hi, Bernard. I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can see you and hear you as well. And let me just check if Abdallah Ali Nacha is also there. Ali, are you there? Well, he can see me. Yeah, great. Thank you. I can see the Ghana flag. So, Michael, we allocated the thing in 4. Busara is talking leadership. Michael 1 is talking business continuity. You are Michael 2. You will talk about strategy. And yesterday, you were banging on about opportunity, a temporary window, and a return of the old normal. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to put that again to us. What does that mean in the context of Reboot? So, Michael, take the floor.
Thank you, Bernard. And I've been listening, and really fascinating submissions from Taka and Michael, and thanks for the great insights that you've shared so far. The thing about COVID is that, and I'm going to come back to the themes that I spoke about yesterday. But I want to talk just quickly about irrelevance. And it's important because as you're rebooting, and entrepreneurs and managers and leaders all over, the one thing that should also be on your mind is relevance and irrelevance. Mm-hmm. Because normally when the business environment is disrupted in the way that COVID has impacted, you would have to look at what has really happened to your business case and ask yourself some really fundamental questions. In terms of rebooting and going forward, is my business case still relevant? And that's one of the key questions that business people have to ask themselves. Now, the tricky thing about evaluating whether your business case is still relevant is that it's not a very easy thing to tell, because what happens is that when there's a major disruption like this, you don't become immediately irrelevant today. If you're going to be irrelevant, it will become obvious a few years down the line. But the forces that would have set in motion your irrelevance actually occur in the present. But your eventual irrelevance happens in the future, in the near future. And so if you did an assessment of your business case, you might realize that, well, there's still demand. Your clients haven't left you, not necessarily. Your suppliers or your other strategic partners in the market haven't abandoned you simply because of the disruption. Business may still appear to go on as usual, but what would happen is that there's a lot of adjustment going on in the market by your competitors. And that's where you need to keep an eye on, because in the initial rebooting, things may seem okay. But a few years down the line, the competition has also adjusted in different ways. And your irrelevance then becomes obvious a few years down the line when your customers and your clients gain access to this new information that actually other service providers and other competitors are doing this in a much superior and a more efficient way than you are doing. And so I wanted to quickly put this point across. So it's very important. As businesses are rebooting, it's important to keep this in mind. And I hope that we can get some questions from the audience on this, and we can deliberate on it a few more. To talk about opportunities, and the point that I made yesterday is that the sectors of the economy that are struggling will bounce back eventually. What will happen is that some businesses within particular sectors will not bounce back, but the sectors will bounce back. So if you take a sector like hospitality, tourism, events, sectors that have been hugely impacted, eventually when restrictions are lifted and we manage to move back to living our normal lives, the sectors as a whole will bounce back. Some businesses within those sectors may not bounce back, but the sector will continue to provide the services. And so the point that I keep making is that the support that government is providing in terms of the stimulus is good, and that effort should be sustained. But in addition to that, as a country and as industry, it's important to also pay attention to certain opportunities that have become that have become obvious now that were not previously obvious. But it's also more important to acknowledge that these opportunities are temporary. They're temporary opportunities, and they're temporary windows of opportunities that will close with time. And so I'll give a classic example. And I think Michael alluded to the point about Made in Ghana. There is a sense in which COVID is one of the best things that happened to Made in Ghana. And as a country, we've got to be able to connect the dots and find ways in which we can accelerate Made in Ghana as a result of the disruptions that COVID has created. The main opportunities that I see are opportunities that have been created for local production and local manufacturing and local processing as a result of the temporary disruptions in global supply chains. And if you take a classic example that I cited yesterday, it's sanitizers. I believe that at the moment, Ghanaian producers produce probably 80 to 90% of the demand for sanitizers. 4, 5, 6 months ago, we could never have imagined this was even possible, but it's happening now. So one of the things that COVID has done is to create, again, what I call a demonstration effect. It's focused our minds. It's made us do things that we didn't think we could previously do. Crisis. And if the crisis, opportunities may also disappear. And therefore, it's important as businesses to have in mind that you've got a short window of opportunity. You've got to strike pulses hot. And you've got to find ways in which you can capitalize on these opportunities, because the old normal never really goes away. And what I call the old normal here is, quote unquote, global production forces, global supply chains, global business, which has the capacity to produce and manufacture at scale and at lower cost, and is able to distribute widely. All the right market infrastructure and logistics to be able to compete, at lower cost and prices that have made it almost impossible for local producers to be competitive over the years. And so, in my opinion, we've got to think about the opportunities that COVID has provoked in the sense of a temporary window of opportunity. And we've got to find the right strategies and mobilize the right resources and partnerships that enable us to capitalize on these opportunities before they begin to disappear.
Wow.
I will elaborate, on some of the elements
later on. Yes, thank you for your introductory thoughts, Michael. I think that's brilliant. You've spoken about maintaining relevance and also about opportunity, the fleeting window of opportunity, and why COVID is the best thing. That's quite a bold statement to make. The best thing to have happened to local manufacturing. We'll come back to that, but let me take Ali Nachia's opening comments. And Ali, I can see from the icon, good. I like your Ghana flag. I like your dress. You look like a proper Alhaji. So,
thank you.
So Alhaji Dr. Ali Nachia, what are your thoughts on compliance in crazy times like these and how it relates to the idea of rebooting your business post-COVID?
Thank you very much. I think that this is, as Michael too just mentioned, I think COVID, as he said, has been one of the best things. How come it's one of the best? Considering the fact that government is trying to help businesses with a fund, it calls for the beneficiaries being vetted to be sure they have been compliant with their taxes. Because whatever support is coming from government is coming from the tax pot, the revenue that has been generated. Even if government borrowed to support businesses, it has to pay back the funding, and that will require revenue being generated. So I think that this is an opportunity for businesses to benefit from their level of compliance, because if that should be used as a yardstick, we should be able to encourage those who have not been compliant with their tax affairs to streamline their activities. But the key issue is trying to remain in business until the pandemic is over. How do you do that? You need to ensure that you meet all the requirements that have been set down in the law. I keep saying that in taxation, once it is written in law, the Ghana Revenue Authority only implements what the law requires them to do. So to the extent that the pandemic has not led to a revision of our tax laws, the provisions in the tax law still operate. So if anybody is occasioned to be unable to comply with the tax laws, the best approach is to write to the Commissioner General or approach the offices of the Ghana Revenue Authority to explain your situation, so that as a human institution, they may also see what can be done to sustain your business. But in the interim, government has already rolled out a relief in terms of one, the filing of returns. Previously, all businesses under the law, 4 months after the end of your accounting date, you are required to file your annual returns. So if we take businesses that prepare financial statements to December every year, they had up to April to have filed their returns, but government extended it by 2 months to the end of June. But if we believe that within the pandemic, businesses could not even get their financial statements audited because auditors could not also move, then the 6 months to me is still on the short side. And I hope that if by middle of this month, businesses still have challenges meeting the June deadline, they should make presentations to government to see whether we could have an extension. The reason being that there are penalties for failure to file returns on due date. And so if you don't get an extension, as long as the time is up, any additional time would incur penalties and interest. And this would affect businesses. There is also a difference between filing your returns and the payment of your taxes. So you could get an extension of time to file your returns, but that does not absolve you from payment of taxes. And so I expect that in any relief government is giving, attention should be given to the interest and penalties that may be waiting for businesses after the pandemic. So that should also be addressed for taxpayers. And I also realized that in the extension that was given, attention was only on the annual tax returns. But there are so many returns that are filed. Some are monthly. For example, the employee taxes, pay as you earn, withholding taxes, and then we have the value-added tax returns. These are monthly returns that are filed. I did not hear any mention of extension being given for the filing of these monthly returns. Rather, there was the opportunity given to businesses to try and file online. So they gave email addresses and bank accounts of the Ghana Revenue Authority so businesses can scan their returns and email to the various offices where they file their returns, and then they can effect payments through the stated account. But in any case, if I have challenges of scanning and emailing, is there any opportunity for me? Because if the deadline of the 15th of the following month comes up, I'll be incurring penalties. And if I'm unable to effect any swift transfer of the payment of my taxes into the accounts of the Ghana Revenue Authority, is there any relief for me? So I think we should come down to look at the monthly returns and look at reliefs that businesses can get in terms of the timing of payment. And we have other reliefs in the law that businesses can take advantage of. I have always stated that this COVID period is a period that businesses can do what I call a self-audit, or what I refer to as a tax health check. Just as we all take opportunity to do medical exams, can we look through our books this period to see what are the taxes that we owe? The money is with us and we've not remitted. Can we quickly remit it to the revenue? If we also do the tax health check, we realize that we have overpaid a tax type, for example, corporate tax, but we owe on the side of the VAT or employee taxes. Can we then make an application to the Commissioner General as provided under the Revenue Administration Act, Section 66 to 68, where you can apply to the Commissioner General to set off any overpayment of taxes you have on one tax type against another. And if there is any balance left, you can get a refund. And that can be a source of funding for you to invest in your business to survive during this COVID period. And then also it's an opportunity for us to ensure that we keep adequate receipts and documentation backing a lot of expenditure that have been occasioned by COVID-19. Donations to the COVID fund, donations to institutions, and then also we may be making direct contributions in one way or the other. What are the evidence that we are putting together to enable us claim a deduction against our income so that we don't see ourselves paying more taxes than are expected from us? So that is one area we need to look at. But in all this, for the side of businesses, I'm happy ABSA is there. You may have challenges of meeting the timelines for paying interest on borrowings. And then there will be the need to take a second look at maybe a rearrangement of payment terms. How does that situate with the deductions you can claim in your financial statements for tax purposes? We need to look at that. And if we take the VAT returns, for example, any VAT that you collected...
Ali, I will not let you go into details for now. I will ask you to take a breather, take a short break. When I and Michael too, that's Michael Koto, and then I'll allow the four of you to talk to each other, because I notice there are similarities and differences in what you're saying. I'd like to talk to each other briefly before I bring in my special guests who have joined us by Zoom. This is Reboot. It's our virtual business forum. It's brought to us by ABSA Bank and the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. Now, the GIPC wishes to inform its cherished stakeholders and clients of its continued services, including new registrations, company renewals, exemptions, processing, automatic expatriate quota application, and technology transfer agreement or TTA applications. For further information, you can contact pr@gipc.gov.gh. We'll put that on the screen, or our social media handles at Ghana GIPC on Facebook and on GIPC Ghana on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget, this event is brought to you by ABSA Bank. Download the new ABSA Bank app to check your balances, make bill payments, transfer money, shop online. Stay safe with ABSA. I have two panelists in-house, Michael Mensah Ba, COO ABSA Ghana, and we have Taka Awori, CEO Busara Africa, Michael Koto, CEO of Confidence, Abdallah Ali Nachia. I'm the only non-CEO here. Everybody sees something of Ali Nachia and Associates. We'll take a short break. There's a lot more ahead of the Reboot. This is the Citi Business Festival. Stay with us.
Shop online, get free swipes, and enjoy greater security with a card that turns banking on its head. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA. Unlock banking with biometrics. Now you can access the ABSA mobile banking app using your fingerprint or facial recognition. Download today. That's Africanacity. That's ABSA.
Welcome back. This is Reboot, our virtual business forum, live on Citi TV, live on Facebook, and it's part of the Citi Business Festival 2020. There's nothing like it. It's a platform of sharing, learning, and leading. My name is Bernard Avle, moderating the first in 4 panels. I need to tell you, every Tuesday, 11 o'clock, there's a panel. We have an e-commerce ecosystem panel next week. We have an agribusiness panel. We have an innovation and technology panel Tuesdays in June. And you can get in touch with us on various ways, or in various ways. You can send your thoughts to us via WhatsApp. We'll put the number on the screen shortly. We have a dozen and a few people on Zoom. I know they're itching to talk. Guys, give me one final wave. Next time I come to you, you're going to talk to me. Just give me one final wave. Yes, I can see Kofi, you see. I can see a few other friends in there. We're going to get to you shortly. But I have in studio Michael Mensaba, COO, Absa Bangana. Michael, great to have you.
Thank you, Bernard.
I also have Taka Awori, my leadership coach. She is the CEO of Busara Africa. Taka, good to have you.
Wonderful to be here.
My long-time guy, Alhaji Abdallah Ali Nachia, he was going to talk about VAT when I took the mic from him. Ali Nachia, great to have you again. I hope you are happy where you are on Zoom and comfortable. And of course, Michael Koto.
Thank you very.
Great. And Michael Koto, who we call Michael too. He is our strategy guy. So Abdallah, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to just wrap up on some of the tax nuances you were discussing. Then Michael will elaborate a bit more on the opportunities he sees from COVID. Then I'm going to allow the four of you to just have a quick chat around among yourselves. What have you heard that you like? What have you heard that you want to dispute? Then I'm going to throw it open to the audience. So Ali, just wrap up your points on some of the tax compliance issues we have to deal with before we do the talking across.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I think that I was looking at whether we could have a look at the VAT filing requirements. You know, with VAT, you have 1 month within which to file the VAT you have collected. So for April, you have up to end of May to file. The question is, with the COVID era, whether you would have received all the invoices that you sent out to be able to meet the amounts that you need to file with the revenue. So we may look at that again. Then also, I was also trying to advise that businesses that are making all the donations and contributions directly to institutions instead of the COVID fund need to keep proper documentation to be able to take advantage of a deduction as provided for under the Income Tax Act. Indeed, under Section 100, subsection 2, paragraph E, any donation made to government for a worthwhile cause is allowed to be deducted from your income for tax purposes. So you don't end up paying more tax than you should pay. And also, they should keep proper receipts and documentation in terms of being able to make deductions of expenses they have incurred. In this era, people are working from home. Businesses may have incurred additional expenditure buying laptops or desktop computers, getting some desks for staff to work from home. These are additional costs that are coming with the abnormal time. And then if you need to incur cost of getting maybe routers or internet connectivity for your staff, these are additional costs. You need the necessary documentation to be able to claim the necessary deduction. But for now, any taxes that you owe, the government had made it clear through the Ghana Revenue Authority, if you settle any outstanding tax liabilities before the end of June, any penalties on them are going to be waived. And so we have people who have outstanding taxes through tax audits that have been conducted on them or assessments that have been made on them. They should take advantage if they can raise the necessary funding to settle before the due date. And if it's too short, I expect businesses can have audience with government to see what can be done for them. Because in these times, we just need to see how to sustain businesses. And after everything gets back to normal, they will be on their feet, make the necessary revenues, and be able to pay their due taxes. So for now, proper record keeping, ensuring you comply with provisions of the tax law, where you are constrained a meeting and discussion with the Ghana Revenue Authority, followed up with a letter, would be good as a starting point to mitigate any tax exposures.
Thank you for that useful one. We are taking notes. We'll know what to do. Let me come to Michael on some opportunities we can piggyback on because of COVID. I'll give you the chance to elaborate. A couple of minutes, Michael.
opportunities that come to mind very immediately. The first one is in the area of pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals, clearly an area of opportunity. If you look at what we've been able to do with sanitizers, just under a crisis situation, it tells you a lot. We currently have just about 25 to 30% of the whole market for pharmaceuticals available to local producers. So local manufacturing companies produce just about 25 to 30% of the total demand of pharmaceuticals in this country. If we've been able to ramp up the production of sanitizers to about 80% local production at the moment, that's a clear proof of concept of what we can do in other areas of pharmaceuticals. You take antimalarials, you take antibiotics. Look, hypertensive medication. If you look at the latest Ghana Health Service reports that chronicles the disease burden in this country, it's become obvious that non-communicable diseases are gradually overtaking communicable diseases, number one disease burdens in this country. So things like, hypertension, diabetes, cardio problems. These are all areas in which there's a huge demand. And imagine if our local manufacturing producers could take advantage. So we could produce a lot of the medication we need, for all these, diseases. And the point again is that what we've been able to do in the time of COVID, and just I use sanitizers as an example, tells us that we can do it. And I'll come a bit later in terms of what needs to be done, in order for us to be able to capitalize these opportunities. But pharmaceuticals is a clear area of opportunity. Another area of opportunity is clothing. Something amazing happened. Something incredible happened. We needed PPEs as a country, and there was a disruption in global supply chains. US, Europe, everybody was competing for the limited supplies in the global markets. What did we do as a country? We retooled. Literally every seamstress and tailor in this country is now producing face masks. The government was able to quickly mobilize large factory industrial scale production of PPEs. And I saw in the initial stages, the Minister of Trade tour 5 factories that had been contracted to produce hundreds of thousands of PPEs and face masks that's been distributed across medical facilities all over the country. And everywhere you go now, we've been able to meet the demand for face masks. What does this tell us as a people? That we can do it. We have what it takes to meet the local demand for clothing. For clothing, what has happened with PPEs and face masks tell you a lot about our capacity to meet the demand for clothing. And yet, we import so much clothing into this country, and it's one of the easiest ways to create jobs. I mean, a lot of the people who, either fall out of the educational system after JHS, if you ask people what they want to do with their lives, there's a lot of people who naturally say, I want to go and learn how to sew. And so there's a huge job creation potential in that sector. The problem, though, is that everybody goes to learn how to be a seamstress, and then you finish and you go and set up your little shop somewhere with one machine and you sew. It's not scalable. So we need to move to industrial scale production of clothing, where you can employ thousands of people producing clothing for local consumption, as well as for export to the African market and to global markets. What you see in Bangladesh and India and elsewhere, we can do it here. And what we've been able to mobilize to do just to meet the demand for face masks and PPEs tells us we should be able to do it. Now, I don't want to see this crisis disappear and all those factories that were producing those PPEs at industrial scale revert to normal. And then, we don't have it again. So I think there's another area of opportunity, and we need to just how we can build on these successes that we've been able to build in the times of COVID. There are many, many other areas: agriculture, food production, agro-processing. That's another area. Bernard, the areas of opportunity that I'm talking about these are all areas of opportunity that are not just an issue of business. They are also issues of national survival. And that's the bigger point. That's the issues of national survival. If there's a major disruption, we cannot get the imports that we rely on as a country. How do we survive?
Okay.
Medicines, clothing. What COVID has taught us is that we have what it takes to mobilize, to produce locally and meet the demand for these goods. And I think that we need to find ways to consolidate these gains, the proof of concept that COVID has demonstrated. We need to build on these gains and consolidate them. And as we move beyond COVID, we need to make sure that we're consolidating and expanding on these gains.
Thank you very much, Michael Koto. Now, let's do a quick one. Any comments from in-house?
Yes,
Taka?
yes, very quickly. Thank you so much, Michael. Good to see my old friend Ali there again. Very quickly, 3 things really resonated with me. Michael, you talked about the importance of not becoming irrelevant and staying relevant. And to me, that really resonates with the whole idea around agile leadership, around being connected to your customers so that you're really staying on top of what the changing needs are. But I'd like us to come back to the whole issue around leadership is about people. And it's really saying that even as we figure out how to be relevant, are we sure that our people have the right capabilities to respond to that? Very similarly, Michael, you talk about seizing opportunities, which makes a lot of sense. But again, we're not doing this alone as leaders. We need a team behind us that are able to actually increase their capabilities to seize the opportunities.
Yes.
Michael, you also talked about, if not now, yesterday, you talked about the importance of partnerships to seize opportunities. I talked about trust and being a leader who's trustworthy. But we know that often in Ghana, what blocks businesses from forming these kinds of strategic partnerships, even if it's on a specific market issue, is trust. So some thoughts about how do we develop that trust. Finally, I think Ali made some really important points around the need to remain compliant. Coming back to the leadership and people issue. We recognize that, as Ali mentioned, many people are working remotely. How do we ensure that they maintain the discipline to constantly keep the records, to constantly recognize that even though I'm at home, I'm only in the office a few days, compliance is still important, record keeping is still important. So I would like us to keep human beings, those who we lead, central to the conversation about how do we respond and reboot our business.
Brilliant stuff. And Michael, one?
Okay, so I want to pick on what Michael, too, my namesake, has said around COVID is the best thing that's happened. I don't want to go that far because obviously there are some consequences of COVID. But to elaborate on it, to say that we need to be able to learn from what has happened. We need to be able to take some of the best practices that we've adopted or during the crisis and then not go back to how we used to do things, but use that to transform our organization. We need to come out of this being a better organization than we used to be, or better individuals. So COVID has challenged that. And I want to pick on a few things that come to mind. Right? It will leave us more resilient than we've ever known. It will actually make us better leaders. You know, COVID has differentiated between the boys and the men when it comes to leadership.
Women and the girls.
Yes, and women and the girls as well. You know, leaders now know what it really takes to lead during crisis. And once you've done this, it will actually build you up, make you a much more stronger leader. Then also, Michael said something about temporary opportunity. I want to emphasize that I don't necessarily see this as a temporary opportunity, because even though, let's take a particular product that may be being used today, let's look at a nose mask, and maybe in a year's time you might not need a nose mask anymore. But through the process of actually providing this service, you get to add new customers. You get to meet new customers. You need to be able to adapt and see what other solution can I give to these customers. So it's about turning this temporary opportunity into a permanent opportunity. By realizing that if this is a temporary opportunity, there are still some things that I can make permanent. Because then through that process, you actually build up capacity. You are able to build up a network of people or consumers that you can actually find out what their needs are. So that when this particular product or service is no longer relevant, then of course you can actually produce other services that will become relevant. And that's the kind of world we live in anyway. Okay. So I don't think that there's anything like a permanent opportunity anymore. What has come to say, opportunities are always going to be temporary.
All your opportunities are temporary.
Always are temporary.
Then that proves his theory better, because his point is that the time frame you have to react is so short that if you don't form the partnerships and put in place the right policies, the old normal can take away the opportunity you have within this period to consolidate.
Correct.
So you're essentially saying the same thing in different ways. Michael, I guess, Michael too, I guess I've summarized your position nicely for you, have I not?
You summarized it, and Michael, thanks very much, because the phrase that you use, turning the temporary opportunities into permanent opportunities, is exactly the point, and you've said it so well.
Great minds think alike. Let me go now to the audience. Guys, thank you for your patience. I love your backgrounds. Beautiful. I don't know who wants to go first. If you give me a wave. Okay, Kofi, you see, you seem to be, where are you now and what do you do? So you give me a wave. So wave vigorously so they activate your sound. Kofi? Yes. So wave vigorously and let them tell us who you are, what you do, and what your question is. Yes, Kofi, yes.
Bernard, yeah, good afternoon, Bernard.
Kofi, we can't hear you. I don't know if your mic is on.
My mic?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Bernard.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Kofi. I'm still in the UK, where I'm on my MBA course now, and I'm happy to be part of your audience. I mean, it's a quite good discussion that is going on, because there are a lot of businesses that are facing problems, and in these times of crisis, there's a way to help these businesses to come out of this crisis. Shortly, my question, it follows Bernard, Michael Wan's assertion when it comes to, cash flow management. As we know, there are a lot of small businesses that do not, have proper cash flow management as part of their business operation. And what I want to find out is that, in his opinion, what is the best way that these small businesses, can understand their cash flow and develop a plan of action, in dealing with this crisis? Thank you.
Thank you. So you didn't mention that you were at the Warwick Business School, which I also attended. I was hoping you would say that in Coventry. So Kofi is a business student. He's been working in a bank in Ghana, but he's taken a year off to study at the Warwick Business School, which in my view is the best business school in the UK for an MBA. So Kofi, you said, how can small businesses respond and make their business, just explain the question properly. How will they do what in terms of their cash flow? Can you elaborate on the question? Just to get you clearly, Kofi. You are saying, how can small businesses do what? Because I'm not sure that part of the question came out very clearly. If you are still there. Yes, go ahead. I just want you to elaborate on the question properly. Okay, so I don't think he's hearing me. We'll make do with what we have. Yes.
Hello, Bernard. Can you hear me now?
Yes, just go ahead.
Yeah, the question is, how can they understand their cash flow, and in order to help them to plan?
Great.
In their future actions.
Thank you. We'll take the next question. Who's waving next? Yes, sir. I don't see your name, but you have some mic in your ear. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Blue shirt. Yes, you are on.
Okay.
Yes.
So Bernard, oh, it wasn't me. Okay.
Yeah, Boabin, go ahead. I think it's Boabin, right?
Yes,
Boabin, go ahead, yes.
Intellectual properties. So my question is, for us who are into properties, basically depending on people who are outside this country to build for them, and with the situation now, what is the new idea? What can we do so that we can get more businesses?
Okay, so how can people in the property sector respond to this threat to get more business. It's important because a lot of the money that comes into real estate comes from remittances. And one of the biggest areas African countries have taken a hit is in private remittance. Once your brother is not sending the $2,000 every month, you can't go and pay the 4 months to work. So construction is struggling. He's struggling. Boabin, thank you for your question. We'll take more. The gentleman with 2 pictures behind you, I see 2 beautiful photos. You are wearing glasses. I don't know if you have a question. Yes.
Samuel.
Samuel, is that the name?
Yeah.
Samuel, do you have a question? You have been sitting quietly throughout the presentation. Samuel, put your mic on. Your mic has been muted. Put it on your machine. Go ahead. Yes, Samuel.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Samuel Minta. I work in Monrovia, Liberia. And my only contribution at this point is to thank you very much for organizing this program for us. Even though I'm a retiree, I think I still has a vision that I need to pursue. And this particular session is an eye-opener for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. I see a lady with some nice background and a beautiful turban. Where are you? What's the background? Is it a school or some church? Let's hear from you, madam.
Raj, keep Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon to you and your panelists.
And
thanks very much for the opportunity. I'm actually home. Yeah, my name is Ramat. I run an online store. I think this session has been very interesting. I've taken quite a number of notes. It's, the situation presents very mixed opportunities. So my mode of operations, I rely on a bit of, wholesalers to be able to get very competitive prices for my clients. And my focus is really to students initially in schools, like boarding schools. That was the focus. So now that school is not in session, what happens to me? But there again, I gave myself the opportunity to open up to, homes. And it's been interesting. I mean, people are home and they would want to pick up stuff. So the opportunity has been big, but I am actually not waiting to be faced with the issue before I plan. So again, being relevant is one of the things I'm looking at. And then also the agility in the way I'm taking the decision now. That's the benefit I stand to get because I'm self-employed. So I think it's been an interesting
But Ramat, what is the name of your online store? Just to give you 1 minute free advert.
It's Chopbox Express.
Chopbox Express. Chopbox Express.
Yes.
Can I get Shito, Gary and Shito from Chopbox Express?
Precisely. Look, you can get Gary, Shito, your groceries. You can even get homemade Hausa cocoa, kose powder, tobe powder, pinkaso powder, kunu powder. In fact, I've given myself the opportunity. I've opened up in such a way that even the normal things that your normal consumer would have gotten, like Hausa cocoa by the roadside, because of lockdown, everyone is scared to buy outside. And that is one of the things I've also tried to push in. So like I'm saying, I am not waiting to be faced with a challenge. I am trying to be a bit, thinking ahead and be pushing across. So
Thank you.
Really
I'm sure Michael one will be happy to talk to you if you need a loan to expand to the next level. Thank you, Ramat. There's a gentleman.
I'll be grateful.
There's a gentleman.
I'm actually going into expansion, so that's actually also another key thing. I'm very,
There's a gentleman with very thick earphones. Your headphones look like they are very expensive. You know yourself. So you just tell us who you are, where you are, and what question or comment you have.
Hi, my name is Carlton. I'm calling from the UK, and I have a small business in Ghana, and we are into the construction side of things, providing coatings. And we've tried to diversify, looking at what's going on. But then what I'm realizing is people are stuck in the traditional ways of doing things. Because what we've moved on to now is coatings with hygiene properties to protect them. Because post-COVID-19, I believe people are going to take hygiene serious. So we've tried to bring in to the country products to help people, against viruses and bacteria. But then it seems people are stuck in the traditional ways of doing things. So maybe we expected people to change attitudes, but I don't think attitudes are changing so much. So that is what we do, and that's my question. People stuck in their traditional ways, how do we get them to modern ways of doing things?
All right, thank you. Let me take
On the other hand, let me just let you know that I work in Imperial College Business School, and it's the best business school.
Oh, okay. So you work at Imperial College, Tanaka, and AEC is in...
Yeah, Tanaka building, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'll take the final question for this round. The rest of you, I'll come back to you. Gentlemen, the one in glasses and in suit, you've been raising your hand for a while. The other one, I see you, but let me take the guy who's sitting in a blazer. You were wearing glasses and you have white headphones. The name is Daniel, I think. Something Dodo, something. You know yourself. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, Daniel, you need to put on your mic and you need to speak up. Yes, you need to speak up. Okay, Daniel, I'm not sure I know what the problem is, so let me test somebody else. The gentleman next, yes, you're holding a pen in your hand. Just go straight. Let me take your comment. I'll come back to Daniel. Yes. You have not unmuted your mic. It's a bit of a habit, so just check your mic and unmute it. Yes. It's still on mute. Your mic is still on mute. Wow. Okay, let me come back in-house whilst we deal with those technical issues. Sorry about that. We have so far Kofi AEC. How can small businesses understand what's going on so they can get better cash flow? Boabing is in real estate. Business is dry. He wants some strategies. Samuel is in Liberia. He's just happy. He's a retiree. He's just enjoying himself. Ramatu, Chopbox Online is a store. She's relevant. She's agile. She's just excited. And then Carlton, UK. People don't want to change. What can we do? So who wants to go first? Taka, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's to congratulate Rabatu. I think she's our poster child, our poster businesswoman for what agile leadership looks like. Huh?
Okay.
And she said two phrases. She's not waiting, and she's thinking ahead.
Okay.
So you've seen it in action. This is what it looks like. Huh? But I would like to spend just 2 seconds on Carlton, because I think he's bringing up an issue that we have maybe glossed over. The reality is that as we seek to reboot our businesses, and this is what I was alluding to before, you have to take people along with you. And the reality is many people will not want to come along with you because they're stuck. They're stuck, they're afraid of change, they're used to doing things a particular way. And I think agile leadership is about working with people to get unstuck so your business can move. Couple of things you may consider, Carlton. Number one is it's about not judging or looking so negatively on that mindset. Too often we're like, oh, those people are old-fashioned, they don't want to move. Instead, it's recognizing this is about influencing people's mindsets to see the benefit in change, to see what they get out of doing things differently. It's providing them with the support and capacity to do it differently, and also the emotional support. Many times people don't have the confidence, so what you're seeing as a bad attitude is actually a cover-up for feeling, actually, Sally, this one has new technology, I know.
It's made up of just a few elements. Your inflows, your outflows, and the timing. So where people get into difficulties is when your outflows is coming in faster than your inflows, and you have to make a payout, and you are not able to make, and you become technically cash-strapped, or you're in a crisis. Two things. I gave a few examples earlier. You need to manage your outflows in this situation. You need to be able to, what are my major outflows, and what can I do about it? Can I take out some costs that is not very value add to my business? Can I negotiate with my bank so that if I have to make repayments at Absa Bank or giving out payment holidays? So I don't know where the person banks, but if he can come to us, it was our customer, we would have been able to give him a payment holiday, which actually stagger your outflow. And then your suppliers, you can have a relationship with suppliers such that you stagger the outflow. Once you stagger the outflow to meet your inflow, you begin to realize that if the timing between your outflow and your inflow is well balanced, that is just managing your cash flow.
Brilliant.
It's as simple as that. And just to add that, these days there are various online learning. So people must begin to adopt. It's not always that you need to go to a classroom or go to school to learn about. Just type in managing cash flow online, and I'm sure some few guidelines will come up. But technically, that's what I've explained there.
Brilliant. Wabi had a question about real estate industry. Things are not going well. He needs some ideas. Any comments?
So let me just touch on a few things that come to mind. I think when it comes to real estate, people just look at maybe the rental side to say, okay, but people forget that the asset itself has value. So how do you get that value out of that asset?
Okay.
It could be that you can speak to a bank or even as a way of advertising your product. But that's as well, it's very, if you have just one area of expertise or one investment, it tends to become difficult when you have such challenges. So in future, post-COVID, I think that one thing I advise him is that he needs to diversify. And not just have one area of business.
Let me go to Michael too, and Ali. Any comments on anything you've heard so far? Michael first. Any quick thoughts before I come back to the Zoom panel, Zoom people? Michael.
I like very much the comments that Taka and Michael have put forward. And I was going to make the point about diversification that Michael made. It's extremely important. Because the thing is that, and I made a point initially about the need to take another hard look at your business case in the midst of all of this. There's certain sectors that would have to really rethink their business case. I'll give a classic example. Conferencing and events. If you are a business that's into conferencing and events, managing conferencing and events, you would have to fundamentally rethink your business case, because a lot of things will never be the same. People today are doing funerals online, they're doing weddings online. It was previously unthinkable. And it doesn't mean that people are going to keep doing funerals and weddings online. But when it comes to real conferences, business conferences, and if you're into running conferences for businesses and events and workshops, things are never going to be the same. You'd have to really take a hard look at your business case and ask yourself the hard questions. There's a way in which you can realign your value proposition to be able to help facilitate and help companies, the same customers that you used to organize physical conferences for. You have to really see how you can be relevant to them in the age of more digital conferences and workshops. And there are many things that you can do. But sometimes in business, the best way to win is to give up. And it's not always easy to do. But the skill set that allowed you to master the field of conferences may be applicable to other sectors that will thrive after COVID. So you have to look beyond the product. You also have to look at the core capabilities and skill set that you have and see if you can redeploy them to meet new demand, because they can meet new demand in other areas, but they may not necessarily be able to continue to be relevant in terms of the areas that you are currently providing. So that's important. You have to look at your business case very dispassionately and ask yourself those hard questions.
Brilliant.
But diversification is key.
Thank you. Let me take Abdallah quickly before I come back to my Zoom people. Abdallah, any quick thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Bernard. I think what I agree with is what Taka mentioned, in terms of compliance, we need to maintain the discipline. Compliance with taxation is a difficult one, but once you get used to it, you would always be okay. And then for Michael, I think the two Michaels mentioned the same thing I wanted to add to. Best practices and not going back. As Michael one mentioned, GRA has come out with online filing of returns, paying of taxes through transfers. Can we maintain and improve on that and not go back to situations where we have to physically go to the GRA with wads of documents to file our returns and checks to submit? The banks are there. We can have the account numbers and we pay, and we are doing it now.
Okay.
So it's a good area. And what Michael too brought in, which should give the GRA some ideas, is the topical area of taxation of the digital economy. COVID-19 has proven that businesses can be done online through digital platforms. Conferences are going on Zoom, on Google Classroom, and what have you. How are we getting a share as government from all these incomes being generated? So I think it will help the Ghana Revenue Authority to start profiling taxpayers so we can move from the 80-20 paradox. The 80-20 paradox is the case where we have 80% of taxpayers contributing only 20% of tax revenue, and 20% of taxpayers contributing 80% of tax revenue. And these 20% who contribute the 80% of revenue appear to be the hardest hit in this COVID era. So you can appreciate the downturn in the revenue base of government. So I think that it calls for us to start looking quickly at how to put in structures and measures to touch the digital economy, because things are bad for some sectors. But like Michael too said, it's an opportunity for other sectors. If people are now manufacturing PPEs and manufacturing face masks and all others, they are not going for free, they are on sale. Incomes are being earned. How do we get government share so we can get money in the pot, move it out as support to others who are not doing well in their industry so they can also bounce back, and then together the economy grows. It's time for others to now put their shoulders to others to help them to remain in business. And that is what I think the Ghana Revenue Authority can look at, and all taxpayers can also be compliant to help government to rebound the economy.
Thank you very much, Ali. This is the Citi Business Festival. Our virtual business forum is called Reboot. And Ali Nachia, I think the GRA should write you a check. You've done a very good job for them in promoting tax payment. Don't forget, the festival is brought to you by Absa Bank. Download the new Absa Bank app to check your balances, to pay bills, to transfer money, to shop online and stay safe while banking with Absa. We're also brought to you by the GIPC, Ghana Business Promotion Center, wishing to inform our terry stakeholders that we have continued our services in new registration, company renewals, exemption processing, automatic expatriate quota applications, and technology transfer agreements. All applications available online. Go to our handles, Ghana GIPC on Facebook and GIPC Ghana. Let me go back to Daniel and a few other people for the final round of comments. I'll take all of you, make it snappy. Daniel, we tried you earlier, if I'm getting the name right. Yeah. Hope your mic is on now. Daniel, the man in the suit sitting in the glasses. You have the first bite.
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted. Okay, my name is Daniel Godo. I work with Ernst & Young and Rare Disease Ghana Initiative. Okay. I was in your office last week, Bernard. I don't know whether I remember.
Yes,
with,
yes.
Samuel. Yeah. Okay, so my question goes to Taka. Taka, how do you deal with anxiety, especially during this period? I have a few restaurant owners that I interact with, and their main challenge is they are so used to being busy, doing a lot of stuff during regular period, and now with the COVID, I mean, there's nothing going on. I mean, I was advising them to do some tutorial videos to keep their customers and social media followers engaged. But then the main question that kept coming up is how do they deal with the anxiety? Because no one knows when this COVID-19 is going away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel from Ernst & Young and Rare Diseases. Guys, when you're talking, speak clearly. The gentleman in the African print, yes, you're speaking to the nation. Your name starts with M.
Hello.
Yes, I'm not sure the full name. Go ahead.
Mark Adolf.
Mark,
all right. So,
great.
Thank you very much. So, I'm enjoying it. My question has to do with attitude. So, the first question is, post-COVID, will we get back to normal, or we are going to say this is the new normal that we have to deal with? Because then post-COVID, will people still like to use Ghana-made pharmaceuticals as avidly as it is this time, because there is the need and people cannot go across the border, something they think is better? So I think that the whole attitude thing to remain, like people will still be happy with participating with Ghana-made things, or there should be a deliberate attempt at getting people to like Ghana-made things even beyond this point.
Thank you. Brilliant question. Gentleman who we tried speaking to before the break and we couldn't hear you, yes, please, the name starts with D, I'm not sure. Put your mic on and let's hear your question. Yes, you. You are doing sign language. Wow.
Hello, I think I can be heard now.
I can hear you, yeah.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I was doing sign language because, the host was not unmuting me.
Okay.
And we actually go into leveraging between the hearing impaired community and then the hearing community in providing interpreting services to the deaf community. Yeah, and that is what we do. Now, listening to your panel, I wanted to find out, they have been mentioning opportunities. Now, Michael too mentioned something about relevance and irrelevance. Mm-hmm. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but is there a time, maybe even in this COVID season, that you should just be realistic and look at your business model and decide and say that, no, time is up for me to fold up? Mm-hmm. Is it realistic? Can we do that now? That is the first one I want to put up. The second goes to Taka. She talks about leadership. Now, leadership now, the COVID situation that has happened, if you are in leadership position, you need a strong form of resilience. You mentioned resilience. And I think there will be some form of some emotional intelligence that is really needed as a leader, and some psychological agility. Now, these things are, we don't have training with them to be agile enough as leaders to beef up. So to Taka, how can we take up these type of training as leaders in our businesses to be more resilient, to be more emotionally intelligent, and be more psychologically agile to reboot?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Richardson. Is that the name? Richardson, yes, white shirt and a beautiful tie. Is that the name? Richardson, go ahead. Yes, unmute Richardson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes.
This is Richardson from the First Accountancy Consult.
Okay.
Thanks for the discussion. My question or my issue is on the compliance aspect. In the business environment in which we find ourselves today has become one of the necessary tools in terms of compliance issue. But most of the times it becomes a problem, especially when you are dealing with the tax or the withholding tax aspects. For example, let's say a business is trading with another entity or any individual, and you have to withhold a tax on the amount that has been paid if it's beyond the amount which has to be withheld. But this invoice has been issued, which you haven't received the money yet. you are obliged to file the tax return on time before 15th of the preceding month. But the question lies here is it, when you file and you have been paid, because you haven't received the money or the funds from the supplier, the other person, the customer, GI will keep pressuring you. Let's say you transact a business in April, but as at June, you haven't received the money, which you have already filed for that returns, but the money has not been paid yet. GI coming to you. What do you have to do about that since you haven't received the money? Then the second.
No, it's okay, Richard. We don't have time. We'll take only one. We'll take only one question. We have only 10 minutes to go. Thank you. The man in the red shirt. You've been trying to ask a question. Gentleman in red shirt or something reddish. I don't see the name. Yes, that guy. Can you? Yes, you. What's your question? You are. Oh, you don't know you are wearing red. You are wearing something red, or it looks pinkish. Yes. He probably can't hear me. Okay, then the next gentleman next to him. Yes, go ahead. Just go ahead. Give them the sound. Let them talk. Yes, go ahead. Oh, Lord. Oh, God. I'm struggling with this. I really need to just get... Look, if your mic has been unmuted and you want to ask a question, just go ahead and start talking.
Okay. Can I talk?
You are already talking.
Can I talk, please?
Thank you. Hello. Yeah, for the opportunity given to me.
Yes, go ahead. Wow, Zoom has issues. Okay, let me try again. The gentleman in red, you are on the floor. Just go ahead and talk. He's talking, his mic is off. His mic is okay. The other gentleman who was talking earlier, just go ahead. The guy on the yes.
Joe.
What?
It's Joe.
Joe, go ahead.
They're trying to unmute Joe. Unmute Joe.
Yes, Joe, you have been unmuted.
My mic was on mute.
Yes.
Yes, I work with, I run a private school, and I'm asking this question on behalf of several other private school proprietors. The clientele of most private schools are in about 3 categories. Those in the upper income bracket, the middle income, and then the low income bracket. Now, the answer to our business now is to go virtual learning. But the issue is those in the upper income brackets, they are able to get the parents to, get the tools needed, the iPads, the whatever tools. But then those in the lower income and middle income brackets have challenges with their parents getting the necessary tools. Now, This question is to Michael too. What do you advise, please?
Thank you. And I'll take the final question from the guy in the red shirt. I'll give you another chance. Just go ahead with your question. Okay, he can't hear me. Can you? Red shirt, yes, just go ahead. Put him on. He's not been unmuted. He's not. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you once again. I am glad for the opportunity given to us to participate in
have time.
This.
Look, dude, you need to go straight to the question. I don't. Okay, you know what? I'm going to pause from there. I have only 5 minutes. I'm going to give each panelist a minute to answer the question. I apologize. I can't take any more questions. The questions were allocated. So, Taka, Ali, Michael 1, Michael 2, you pick the question, go straight for it. We have just 5 minutes to go. So, Taka, you go first.
Okay, so I had 2 questions that were coming to me. I'll go quickly. They're really around the emotions around this. Huh?
Yes.
I appreciate the anxiety. It's real. People are facing difficult things. A couple of things that one can do to manage the anxiety. One is around self-awareness. Know what you're feeling, but also be aware of the thoughts that are propelling this. Huh? Choose different thoughts. Instead of the thoughts of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about my staff? What am I going to do about this? Instead of thinking, start to think more positively about it. And a small exercise I can recommend is that at the end of every day, write down 3 things you are grateful for.
Okay.
It's just a small way to refocus from that which is causing the anxiety to refocus on that where there are opportunities.
I love that. Michael 1.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the question around attitude in terms of, will we go back to normal, or is this the new normal? There are certain things about COVID which we will say nobody wants anyone to get ill, etc. But there are certain fantastic things that have come out. For example, the ability to use digital platforms instead of cash, the ability to use technology such as Zoom as a way of conferencing, the ability to reduce your costs by cutting back on certain non-essential items. And I don't think that these are things that anyone should go back to. And then when it comes to made in Ghana products, as to whether we'll go back to, I think there are 2 or 3 key things. If we maintain the quality of the products, when we ensure that the service to deliver them is on point, I don't see why anyone will go back to doing anything different.
All right.
And these products have come to stay.
Thank you. Michael, 2, and then I'll give the last word to Ali. Michael, 2, somebody wanted to know about schools and something else.
Yes, the private schools that are whose core clientele are low-income parents, I'll say simple. It is a business opportunity to start providing tablets and gadgets. The tablets are the new textbook. You used to sell textbooks to these students. Start selling the tablets to them. Number 2, to be able to do that, and again, they are low income, so you're wondering how they can afford it, find the right partnerships with tablet suppliers and bundle the fees and spread it over the school fees for the next several quarters. You're not going to be able to sell them a tablet and get them to pay immediately, but just bundle it with the fees and spread it out. That's a new business opportunity, so look at it that way. The second point about whether you should just accept that you are irrelevant, again, distinguish the product from your skill set and capabilities. The product may become irrelevant, but your skill set and the capabilities may still be relevant. So yes, do a hardcore evaluation, but don't confuse the product and the skills. But if your skill set has also become irrelevant, then that's a more fundamental existential crisis, and it requires its own new set of skills. And that's where some of the things Taka has spoken about, mindset, being able to retool yourself, and not just yourself, but that of your entire employees. That requires a different level of tackling the challenge. The last thing I want to talk about has to do with trust for partnerships, and Taka alluded to trust. Bernard, yesterday I spoke about the need for Ghanaian industry, captains of industry, to move towards forming a partnership of rivals. We need a partnership of rivals in Ghanaian industry. And this is particularly important in certain strategic sectors where no particular single entity has what it takes to really consolidate the gains we've made in Ghana production. It would require the merging of forces, strategic consortiums. That way, industry can mobilize the right political capital at the level of policy and government.
Okay.
To be able, as a country, mobilize the resources that we need. But this is a made in Ghana opportunity, and industry has to come together and work with government to make sure that we can consolidate the gains and build on them in the
Thank you very much, Michael. Dr. Abdallah, you have the final word.
Thank you, Bernard. I will start with yours, the check from the GRA. I think just as with lawyers, we say lawyers are officers of the court and have to help the court dispense justice. So tax consultants, we are also officers of the revenue, and we have to help the Ghana Revenue Authority by educating taxpayers so we all become compliant. So I think the check can be with them still. If they get it to me, I'll get it across, Bernard.
Okay.
And then on the Richardson's compliance issue, we have 2 things here. If we are looking at the withholding tax, the law says a person who pays another person, and the threshold he mentioned, 2,000 Ghana cedis within the year of assessment, you have to withhold. So for the law to say a person who pays, it presupposes you are effecting a payment, so you have the money.
Okay.
And you are withholding from part of the money of the supplier. So it is not your own money. The second bit of it may be from the angle of VAT. You've issued the invoice, you've not received the money, but then it is due date to file your VAT returns.
Okay,
you
Ali.
may end up pre-financing somebody's business. And this requires internal measures, because you should try
Okay.
to appeal to your clients to make a deposit at least up to the VAT amount. Then by the filing date, you will have amounts to give over to the revenue.
Thank you very much, Ali.
To pre-finance.
Thank you very much, Ali. My guests have been
You're most welcome.
on Zoom: Abdal Ali Nachia, Managing Partner, Ali Nachia and Associates; Michael Koto, Managing Partner, Confidence. In studio, Taka Awori, CEO of Busara Africa; Michael Mensaba, COO, Absa Bank Ghana. Thanks in the Commerce Bank with Citi TV. We'll be with you next time. Bye bye.